Okay. All right, we're going to call the order, the Cranbury Township Committee meeting for the 2025 budget. If you're able to, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll go to the Open Public Meetings Act. Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was sent to the Cranbury Press, Trenton Times, and Home News Tribune on January 17th, 2025, posted on the Township website and sent to those requested a copy of this notice. Move on to roll call. Mr. Christopher?
Here.
Mrs. Helbadawi?
Here.
Dr. Rogers?
Here.
Mr. Scott is absent at this time, and Mayor Kinnear.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to start off with police capital.
Sorry.
Thank
We're
you.
going to start off with police capital like we normally do because they have most of the items in our capital. If you go to the police tab, you can follow along with Lieutenant soon-to-be Chief Sheriff.
Yes.
They'll stay red? Okay,
Yep.
good. Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to go line by line. If you need some clarification, please stop me. For the 2025 budget year, first line item are marked police vehicles, and the next 1, 2, 3 line items are some of the upfitting equipment that's required for those vehicles. I don't want to say they're self-explanatory, but I know we have a new committee. Every year we try to get at least 2 cars because if we try to play catch up, it's impossible. And as it stands, we're behind, not because of this committee's commitment to it, but because of the inventory and the amount of availability of vehicles. Quite simply put, we were supposed to have last year's order by September, and they're just coming into service now. So we're always behind the 8 ball. But again, these are for marked police vehicles, 4-wheel drive. We're not changing much of anything when it comes to the marked units. Good?
Question?
Yes.
With regards to like when you purchase a vehicle and you receive it and you start using it, how long do you keep it for?
In patrol rotation, we try to do a minimum of 5 years, equivalent to about 100,000 miles. And then we still don't get rid of the car. Then we do it for supplemental use for road jobs, extra duty, which we would then bill an administrative fee accordingly to the contractors, et cetera, to get the life. So honestly, it varies. Some cars we can get 10 years, some cars we can only get 5 or 6, depending how they're used. And obviously accidents play a part into that. And, you know, we do nothing but drive all the time, so.
And you can use those for shadow cars, right? Like the unmanned, like you had on Station Road.
We could.
As a deterrent.
Absolutely,
car.
we could.
Oh.
Yes, 100%. We have done that on Station Road.
So, should I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely. We're on the vehicles.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So the Environmental Commission has a, as a grant in community energy, like our whole Cranbury energy use. And one of the things was a webinar yesterday that they attended. And you know how I've always spoken up every year about the EV, can we do it? Of course, we would need the infrastructure. But I think what seems to be kind of more relevant to a smaller town might be a hybrid. And I don't know, have you had a chance to look into that? Because this webinar says they come fully equipped and they, obviously they don't use gas when they're sitting there. It's not an EV hybrid, it's, the gas hybrid. And like a plug-in, it's not a plug-in, I'm not talking about that. So, have you looked into that?
We have. Our current fleet and vendor is Chevrolet. Currently, Chevrolet absolutely does not have it, where they want it to be upfitted for a police pursuit vehicle. Barbara, you and I have been doing this. This is my 10th meeting in front of council. And I will tell you that I've heard you. Chief Owens has entrusted the faith in me to go ahead and do it. And I am happy to report that the 2 vehicles that we are just putting into service this year went from an 8-cylinder Tahoe to a 4-cylinder. They're the admin cars. They are the eventually detective bureau cars. They're cars like, I hear you, and we're trying. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the state contract that says we can go ahead and do it. And unfortunately, right now, Chevy is having a problem with their EV vehicles, the crossover ones. So like even the ones that I'm talking about, and I don't know if you saw it, it's not a Tahoe, it's a Traverse, a little bit smaller. It'll suit the needs for what we need it for, detective bureau, et cetera. They don't even make parts to put a cage in it to have people, to have prisoners in the back. So it's something we can't even entertain right now. We could look into what you're talking about, and I watched the slides that you sent. It's all Ford, and we're not on Ford's page right now. And to your point, that's valuable information, but they're doing the city of New York. They're not doing the township of Cranbury, which is this big. They're outfitting 900 plus cars. And it's something that I assure you, as long as I'm here and in this position, I take seriously, and we will continue to look at it. And any way we can try to lower that emission, fuel, everything, we're going to try to do it.
I hear you, but I'm going to keep harping on it.
And that's your job.
Right. Because it's not only, emissions, it's also cost saving at some point too, so you're idling, and it's also brake pads are, you don't wear the brake pads because it's engine slowing, oil maintenance, et cetera. So, it's maintenance too.
I get it.
Yeah.
And that commitment in these two cars that I'm talking about, they have the auto stop feature where you're at a light, the RPMs go from, 1,300 to 0.
Okay.
So again, it's just not conducive for patrol work right now.
Mhm.
It's not. We have highways here. We have roadways in excess of 50 miles an hour. And to lessen the strength and the availability of what we need to do our job, unless we're going to put us in Teslas and Ford Mustangs with 500 horsepower, which isn't realistic.
Right.
They're just not ready yet. They're ready for the cities.
Right.
Trenton started them, where they're congested in their blocks and their neighborhoods. We are very rural here,
Right.
and we're just, we're not there yet. We might be.
So anyway, I don't recall the man's name that was in that webinar, but he is available just as, like free consulting on it. So if we could,
Yeah, they not only have to
Just
be on
keep
state
going.
contract, they got to be on our purchasing as well in order for us to even entertain it.
yeah, and I don't know that.
Yeah,
Because
Yeah.
we just, as I said,
I
the
made
webinar was
4
yesterday.
calls before I came to this meeting just to get that answer, and unfortunately, it's late.
So they're not state contract?
I don't know.
Oh.
I literally made 4 phone calls before I came here, but no one's returning because, they work normal hours, not
Right.
our hours. So
Right.
I will follow back up, and I'll relay the information to Denise, and she can
I
pass it
I
along.
appreciate
No
it.
worries.
Yeah. Because, every town has to do their part for us. to
Listen, I
meet
can tell you in the
state
history of Cranberry
energy
Police Department, we've never had a 4-cylinder vehicle,
Oh, okay.
ever. It's always 8 cylinders, always the biggest and the fastest and whatever. So I hear you, and you've been at it for about a good 3 years now, so it just takes a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we're going to go on to the next line item, which is traffic safety. So for traffic safety, unfortunately, I did my due diligence and applied for a $50-something thousand grant for new radar units. The last time we purchased radar units was in, I want to say, 2002. They've hit their life expectancy. We're just spending too much money to try to hold them together, and that's the better part of $38,000. So our vehicles need new radar units to enforce speeding, and the remaining will go for, if you see like on Station Road, there's flashing signs. We're going to get another 4 of those and strategically put them throughout the town. There's a couple that are going up. Hopefully within a couple of weeks. I spoke to Jerry today. That'll be Plainsboro Road and Cranberry Neck Road.
Is that the only design that's out there, or is that the design?
No, that's the only, as far as I'm concerned, being fiscally responsible, the only affordable sign, because I can get beautiful, big, and they're $11,000 a piece. Right, exactly. And I'll get you the quote. I have it. So it's just, they're just, they'll sell you whatever you want. Comes a time where you got to say, like, enough's enough. Like, we will do it. We will enforce. That will wake people up, because those signs, they wake everybody up when you're not used to it. You know what I mean? And you see it and the flashes, I think they do.
You're talking about the big ones? Is that
The ones that are on Station Road that flash the light around that
Okay.
ring, and then we still have our big ones, which we rotate every April to November. They're on rotation every week, 10 days they move.
How about the little sign that has the MPH on it? There's that little sign, isn't it, on Main Street? There's the little.
Tells you your speed.
Yes, it tells
That's
you the
not little.
speed.
That's the ones I'm telling you, we rotate. That's a 24 by 36.
No, I was the little one on the post,
On the pole.
Your speed, not around it, not bordering the lights
No,
around.
no.
Just flashes the
Yeah, it's
speed.
just it's a big white. That's a 24 by 30.
Oh, it looks small.
Oh, no, that's not small. That's,
Oh.
that's the one that I'm talking about is $11,000. And we could do them permanently where they have solar and they
Right.
would recharge themselves.
Oh, I thought that
Very,
was
very
permanent.
expensive.
Oh.
I think that line item is great in response to last night's public comment.
Okay, that's where we're at. The next one is the flock camera system. We touched on this last year. It's available now. This is just to shore up our town to where we are piggybacking off of a lot of towns that Monroe Township has 20 of these camera systems. They don't take personal information. They literally just mark license plates. They have been instrumental in burglaries, thefts, any way our detective bureau can track a car. We could track it on our border from Monroe and then we lose a car. So this request is for 4 of those cameras, and those 4, once we have them up and running, the county has committed to giving us another 2.
Do you know where they'll be located?
They'll be strategically located. They'll come, they're going to do an index of our crimes, of our areas in relation to where the other ones are around. South Brunswick doesn't have them yet, but they assure me they're getting them. And then, we initially can just follow a bad individual wherever they go, town to town, and then, piecemeal it and put everything together that we need to do. So that is a annual cost. The first year is a little bit more expensive because there's an implementation, but year 2, you can see where it drops down almost $3,000. We don't own those cameras. They are owned by Flock. We essentially rent them, but we own the data. And that data is stored on their cloud and their system for 5 years. We can retrieve it anytime we want.
Is this like the way of it seems like
It's the
this
way
seems
that-
like,
it's
I see them
100%
putting
the
up
way.
everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't even know they're there. That's the nice part about it.
And if they get damaged
until you get
or
a ticket.
something,
Excuse me?
if they get damaged or something, does Flock deal with that?
Yeah, the only thing is if it's like stolen, then we have to worry about it. We'll have to put it on our insurance. But as far as like a crash, a car accident, they will come and they will do it all.
If it
That's
gets, if
what
it
it
gets
is.
stolen, I hope they see the guy.
Yeah, yeah. Our luck, it'll be a stolen tag, and then we won't be able to do it again. It does license plates. So, again, the next line item is standard cost of doing business. It's a county radio system. I apologize for the typo. It's actually year 7, and I have year 6 in the body of it. This is
No, we have year 7.
no, you do, but here in the body, it's year 6.
Oh, I'm not
I caught my
looking
own
at
mistake, so don't worry. I call my own mistake. It's year 7, 100%. Again, this is something that, and I know there's new committee members here, but this was done 6 years ago, and we're just continuing with it. The next line item is firearms. Again, we started this. We do this for a 5-year cycle, and then we replace all our firearms. This started in 2024. And this is the amount that was allotted each year until we hit that 5 years, and then we go ahead and replace all of our firearms. And I don't want to say the last item. The next line item is buildings and grounds, ever changing. It's the continuing cost of doing business to just get our infrastructure up and running, electricity poles. I mean, the long-term items that we need to set up, monitors. We literally just had, we have a key fob to Wanda everywhere. They went, couldn't do it. Like literally the whole system had to be replaced, and it was $10,000 like that. So, it's unfortunately the equipment there is not lavish. It's $12,000, and that's a lot of it. Thankfully, capital is allowed to be rolled over. So if we don't use it, we save it and we have it for the next year.
I'm just curious about energy usage and do you have they flick on and off when you leave the?
We do for, I would say, about a quarter of the department, almost a third. I did last year change half of all the bulbs to the high efficiency one, and the remaining Hopefully, once this passes, we'll be done this year. The remaining of the PD will all be, I don't know what they call it, Barbara, you probably do, but the high efficiency bulbs.
Probably someone's going to come in and talk to you about all of that at some point, so that we,
You will or somebody?
us from the EC, Environmental Commission.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
No,
like-
not me.
yeah, no, I listen, I will make myself available.
I know you will. Thank
Quick-
you.
Yep.
Quick one, sorry, on the
Yep.
firearms, after 5 years, do they come, the old ones go out of service?
They do. They get sold back to the manufacturer.
Manufacturer?
We do not keep them. We are not like the state police. The only state agencies take them and will literally melt them. If I was to do that, our weapons are probably in excess of $100,000. They actually give us a very good price for them. That's how I'm able to offset it with the amount of money I'm asking, and then we buy the new ones with it.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. The next line item is our IT infrastructure, computers, servers. Unfortunately, everybody knows about computers. You buy a laptop today, 6 months from now, it's no good, right? So this is just, I ask our IT individual that's in charge of the township's account and the police departments, tell me what we're going to need this year because it's above my pay grade. I don't know. And there's no exaggerating. There's a couple computers set aside. We need to change this server. We need to change that. And that's the price that it came up with.
You do some of your training on your computers too,
Do we do training on our computers?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's about 90% of our training. Is on
like
our
you don't have to
computers.
go somewhere and
No.
do training.
Well, we
anymore.
do for the
Right.
ones that are specialized, but
Right.
since post-COVID, we do the better part of our training is online. And we're actually going to be going to a training platform, which will be online, Zoom and whatever.
Because I know you have a lot of training throughout. You're constantly training.
It doesn't stop.
Right, right.
Does this include cybersecurity?
Excuse me?
Does this include cybersecurity?
It does include cybersecurity. The next line item is our Axon. I apologize. It's phase 2 of. I apologize. This is the one that was. Okay, this was previously approved last year. It's the continuation of it. It's a 10-year contract. The figure's in there. I have to put it every year so that you can see what it is. It still is a capital item, but it's for our body cameras and our in-car cameras. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions for that. But the next line item is phase 2. It's again 9 years to coincide with the 1 year that we didn't do last year. This will take care of our interview and interrogation rooms, as well as make up one vehicle that we're missing for the camera system. That way, everything will expire at that 10-year mark, and then we can do the whole package together. I try to be as thorough as I can. I apologize for that one mistake. But if you have any questions, I will be more than happy to answer them.
How dare you?
Yeah, I know.
It's all good. It's all good. Before you leave, there's only one other thing that we discussed with the personnel subcommittee, and that's the amount of officers that we have. And so in the operating budget, we have included 2 additional officers. And so before you leave, in case there's any
Absolutely.
questions, I just want 2 additional officers to add to this one, so that there can be 4 on a shift.
Correct.
4 on a shift.
So our minimum number, and I'm going to get to your question, would be 23. It would be 4 officers on a shift as opposed to right now daytime. There's 2 guys, 2 officers working. Sometimes Friday, Saturday, and Sunday just on town because we just don't have the officers we need. If we're approved for those 2, we will commit to 4 officers on a squad. There are 4 squads. That's 16 patrol officers. There are 2 traffic already, and there are 2 detective bureau. And that minimum number that we had discussed with the personnel subcommittee would bring our police department to 23 officers. I will tell you that we have been at, for 26 years of my career, the majority, we did get up at one point prior to Chief Varga leaving at 21, but through attrition, we fell back down to 19, but the majority of our department was 17 officers. And we're having trouble staying afloat.
So we're going to get 23 now, or that's all we're at 21?
We're not at 21. Once Chief Owens leaves, we're at 19, right? We were approved for the 21, which we're going to be soon. And then what I'm asking for is the additional 2 to get us to 23. Correct.
I just wanted to add that this is also in light of the fact that our population will be growing.
Already is growing.
Right, so we have, aside from the affordable housing, we do have residents still coming into the property over, what's it called, on Old Trenton is another property, but the Toll Brothers property. Now, what is that, a third occupied? We still have more to go?
276 total, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
So this is in anticipation of things to come. And this is a proactive approach rather than a reactive approach. And so there was a hefty, healthy discussion on this. And with sort of real guidance from you, we came up with that decision. So, I mean, I think he's here. Lieutenant is here if you have any questions.
So this is for this year, you'd be hiring these?
Correct.
Yes. Because it goes to the personnel
It goes to the
subcommittee and then we bring it up at budget time. You've been on the personnel subcommittee.
Barbara wants to be back on the personnel subcommittee.
I can tell you that we're offsetting overtime, so overtime has been decreased slightly because there should be less overtime, hopefully. Now, of course, if officers go out on workers' comp or disability, we're going to be back down from the 23, but that is what we're looking to achieve.
Absolutely. And I did make a commitment to this, to the personnel subcommittee, that if we do have any known long-term injury, I do have an officer out on disability right now, I will plug that to the best of our ability with no overtime. Meaning I will move a traffic officer if I have to. I will move someone in order to stop that bleeding if I know it's going to be a month or 2. But this is unfortunately the cost of doing business. We cannot operate in this township with 2 officers on the road. This town is too big. We're getting too busy. And our numbers are through the roof. We had excess of nearly 28,000 calls for service last year. It's unheard of for a 19-man department. And it's not 19 because the chief's not answering calls. The administrative lieutenant's not answering calls. The operation lieutenant, unless it's the end of the world, is not answering calls. And I have detectives that have to detect, and they're not answering calls. And the bulk of the work is falling on when I was on the road for 16 years of my career, call to call to call, and it just doesn't stop.
The way I described it when we were having our discussion was it always seems like the floor is always moving underneath you.
The best analogy.
Because there's so much that's unpredictable when you're talking about injuries or comp or any of those things. You can't be predictive of that. You just know that one of those things is inevitably going to happen, and you're trying to put a net under the organization. And as Amon said, be proactive with a population that's going to be increasing.
Yeah, and we have our struggles with hiring too. So we can give the blessing, and we don't know what the future is going to hold. And as far as how I'm going to start being a chief, I'm going to be as transparent as I can. I was on the phone with Denise earlier. She doesn't even know this. I got a phone call. And the individual we swore in, Aaron, love the guy, he quit.
I had a feeling.
What? Oh, he called me. I thought the director, who's a personal friend of mine, was fooling around with me. And he's like, chief. I go, I'm not chief yet. So again, I thought he was fooling around. And he said, your officer's here. He would like to talk to you. And I said, oh, okay. Again, he's stupid me. I think we're playing a game here. And I answered the phone, and this individual there, and I said hello, and he said hello, chief. And I said, who is this? Because I didn't recognize his voice. He said it's Aaron, and he was crying. And I get it. Listen, this job's not for everybody, right? And we're going to do our best. We're going to do our best to put the most qualified. We went through 2 processes to get to this kid, and I don't care. I don't look at race. I look at the best candidate we can get. And this kid beat an officer that is certified, in my opinion. And that's why he got the first nod. And not to say the other one's not worthy, but just not yet. So in that breath, I can't convince him to stay. He said, I'm overwhelmed. They took my phone. I'm lost. And I get it. It's a culture. And perhaps maybe this falls on us, but we're not allowed to discriminate because of age, right? He has the age, he's 22, probably the youngest we would have hired, but he just presented like, like he made me look like I was nobody back in the day. Do you know what I mean? And I
It's
just
like
had
basic training, right?
such,
Like you don't know what's
it's,
gonna.
yeah, and it's what he said. He said, I had no idea. I go, you didn't Google it? They took your phone, they yelled at you? They yelled at me for 10 hours. Yeah, well, you got about 4 weeks of that. Because whatever they do to you in there, it's nothing what maybe will happen on the road, right? And I don't want to hide anything. That is my go-between. I will always go to Denise first and the personnel subcommittee, but I'm as transparent as I can. We're going to try to plug that hole, but it's going to be another process.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And that is quite a loss.
Microphone.
It's an immense loss. I can't even,
And I know how much energy you put into that.
Oh my
too.
gosh.
And so it would be, instead of 2 on the road, you're gonna have 4 on the road? Is that what you're trying to aim for? Or is it like?
A shift.
a
oh
shift?
yes, 4,
Okay.
correct,
Okay.
4 total. And in order to do that, I just need 2 more officers. I know I just lost Tim, so I'm
Now
going to say 3,
Right.
but this one was, they were already approved.
Two
So
net new.
I just need 2 additional officers.
And that's
And I-
already in our budget, we budgeted
Correct.
for it?
Yes.
Okay.
If it's approved, we can get there. We're going to open up the academy. I am, unfortunately, it's probably about $8,000 just to send a recruit to an academy. I am personal friends. He did me a favor this time. I'm out 4 pair of pants and 3 shirts. So the next one going will cost us nothing other than perhaps a uniform. And I'm going to try to use those, because you can put them on. So I'm going to try to use those uniforms as, well, I might, you never know. No, we don't profile. But I'm just saying, like, if we have to replace 4, you know what I mean?
We know you're
And-
gonna do the best you can.
And I'm
It's
going
okay.
to, and
okay.
my commitments to this town for as long as I'm here, it's unfortunate because no one in this room is more disappointed than I am. I have no
So-
idea.
So back to the request for the 2. So I was going to ask the overtime question, and I think that is answered. And to some extent, I would
Mhm.
imagine we would save overtime,
Mhm.
like just by the sheer nature of having 2 more
It's
guys.
just knock on wood.
2 more officers, I should say. Additionally, is there any potential breakage, like as older, we talk about breakage in education all the time, right? Older, more tenured teachers or officers leave, they get replaced with
Well, yeah.
less costly.
We're always here, right? That's the greatest analogy, and I've used it in meetings, and the ground's always moving, right? So we really, you can't, because if you allow to do it, sure, I'll hire 50 guys. You don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So what I want from the commitment, if it's approved, to say, okay, our number's 23. Somebody puts their papers in, give me the green light, let me start the process, because I'm going to start it in a couple of weeks because it was already approved. I'm not saying for the new ones. I'm going to start it, and if you say yes, then it'll be for 3 as opposed to the 1. I'll start in a couple of weeks. From the time I started to the time it's done, you're talking 4 or 5 months. Now, if I have to send them to the academy, it's 6 months. Now, when they come back, it's 3 months before they're allowed on the road by themselves. So we're talking a year.
You don't recognize the benefits of the recruitment.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. And to Denise's point, like, the budgetary, you just can't just say, okay, go ahead, go hire. And then when they leave, they leave. I understand that, but we are in such a disadvantage in that regard because you're trying to get an officer for life here, right? You try to do the best you could do and you just don't know. You don't know. And unfortunately, I'm beyond disappointed. So
And Denise, just to double confirm, that's in this budget already.
Correct.
100%.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about. Thank you.
Okay, good on that young man to make the decision quickly, though.
Yeah, and listen, I called his mother, and I was worried about his well-being. Chief Owen said, "Is it all right if I call him?" I'm like, "You're asking me. You're still the chief." So he's like, "Well, I have his number." So I gave it to him. He did call to check on him, and we don't want bad things to happen and to him. Or I get it, it's not for everybody. And I did tell him that, he's like, "Well, can I just come tomorrow?" No, the car's got to come today. I need a letter today because tomorrow morning I'll move for termination. And if I do that, you can never be a police officer in New Jersey again. That's the law when you don't fulfill. And I don't want to do that because he's such a good kid. So long story short, I have the letter. It was written in the academy, and it's done. It's unfortunate. There's no coming back. But it's not my job to talk him off the ledge.
No.
My son was in the State Police Academy. I would not talk him off the ledge. I'm not there to say it's going to be okay. It is what it is, right? Those streets, whether they're Cranbury or Trenton, they're the same streets, same people that drive through. So it's not doom and gloom, but the academy's set there to say it's really bad, but out there it could be way worse. So, yeah. Thank you. We're good? All right. Excellent. If you need me, I'm not here. Have a great night, everyone. Yeah, absolutely. I live here. Take care.
Okay, so moving on the agenda, the next three items actually are in the budget. They are the annual contribution for fire and first aid as well as LoSAP. I put them in the budget because I do not know what is going to happen with the fire district, right? So if the fire district happens this year, we won't pay it out. If the fire district doesn't happen, we will pay it out. We always give the maximum to the fire and the first aid and the maximum for LoSAP, which is state driven. It's a number that's given to us. So just so you know, that's what we're going to be doing. It's not in capital, Barbara. It's in operating. So I just wanted to let you know why those are in there. Okay. So we can keep going with capital. Go ahead. They're in the operating budget under police. Yep, they're in the operating budget under police, under salaries, okay? Okay, so let's move on to the rest of the capital and go through those. All right, so starting with your spreadsheet in the front of the capital book, we're only gonna focus on 2025 because the rest of it is just placeholders. It's a plan that goes in the budget document. It may happen or may not happen in those years. We revisit it every year. So the plan doesn't cause us any, problems. We just put it in there. And then the only way that the money gets spent is when we do an ordinance, and that only focuses on what's agreed to for 2025. Okay. So the first two line items involve town hall. One is for furniture, one is for security. I can tell you that we don't spend much money on town hall ever.
Are you sure?
Everyone just spin their chair around in a 360.
In all the years that I've been here, so I think the building was redone 26 years ago.
Is that the newest thing in the building?
Yeah. It was because my daughter, I remember I just had her and we were out of this building while they were renovating it. She'll be 26. So that is the last time that really major things were done here, except for we did have the building painted and new carpeting put in, I don't know, maybe about 8 years ago. So that is the only thing we have done. And it's starting to see some wear and tear. We need to update some things. So I went out and got quotes from WB Mason, who is under state contract, as well as the vendor that the school used for the renovations they're doing over there. And the guy came in with, government prices for us. And to redo the furniture will be about $60,000. That includes file cabinets, chairs, desks, all of that for the building. I don't even know if we can get it all done in 1 year. It's a big undertaking, but again, capital rolls, so I'm not too worried about that.
What will we do with the old items?
So now the old items, I've talked to the vendor about it, and once we're a go, I will take pictures of all the old items and send it to him. He has someone that may come and pick them up for free, and do what they're going to do with them. Otherwise, I'm going to have to pay someone to take them because there's nowhere for Public Works to take all of this old furniture and put somewhere. So those are the two options for the old furniture.
We don't have an ability to donate.
Again, maybe if somebody wants it and they have a truck and enough people to come and take it, I'm fine with donating it. But when I spoke to the vendor, he said typically either this vendor comes and will pick it up for free and take it and then either resells it or refurbishes it or does whatever he does with it. And if it's too old and he's like, yeah, no, don't want that, then we have to pay someone to remove it and dispose of it.
Does the furniture include the chairs we're sitting on?
No, it doesn't include these chairs. These chairs are new, actually. We had hardwood chairs before.
Well, then I'm grateful for this very soft, cushiony seat.
So these were given to us free from the police department because they didn't use them enough.
They weren't comfortable.
Probably not. He said because of
Guns,
on the
yeah.
side, it got in the way.
Yeah,
And they
that
couldn't
makes
use
sense.
them.
So
So, yeah,
we
so they gave them to
reuse,
us.
repurpose.
Great question.
But Denise, what are we talking about actually? I mean, just the inner office spaces, the
Mhm,
desks, nothing in here,
mm-mm. Nothing in here. This is
carpeting,
small
anything
tradition.
structural?
Nope, nope.
Couch out there. No, I'm
No.
kidding.
Yeah, no couch. No room for a couch. Yeah.
Right.
So just desks, chairs, file cabinets, anyone who has a bookshelf that needs to be replaced, any of the furniture in the offices.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, then town hall security. I put this in here and don't know if we're really going to use all of it. But we did have someone come over, Lieutenant DeChara brought him over, who helps them with the security over at the police department. And obviously their security systems are like hundreds of thousands of dollars. But they did recommend cameras in the building, so that if something were to occur, or we want to see who was roaming about, we will be able to see that. It's not sophisticated. It's really almost like a Ring camera in a way. It'll upload onto my laptop. So wherever I am, I will be able to, if there's a problem, see. And at least it deters people who know the cameras are there. And it also allows us to see who is roaming around if we have a question about it. It will be an undertaking just because of the walls in here, and he wasn't even sure. He had to go back and kind of look at how are we going to do it. We had a hard time just getting, a router, an internet connection, because these walls are
No, but there's so
brick.
many wireless
and-
options that are available.
Right,
now.
so he's gonna look into that. He said they don't work as well, and I'm like, they'll work good enough for what we need, because I don't think we're gonna be able to.
Like a grainy
hardwire.
street view, yeah, they're
Mhm.
not great, but
Mhm.
internally, just monitoring inside at least.
So
the-
it'll be at the doors,
Good
the front
lighting.
and the back door. It'll be in the stairwells. It won't be in offices, but
Now, we talked about the need of the front doors. If we cannot get something that is historically interesting, it's still a municipal building. And
we'll have to
so-
look for a state vendor. or
Right,
a
and that
vendor.
could potentially fall under
Mhm.
security
Yes.
in a way, because you're looking for doors that, I don't know, close,
Yes, yes,
right? And are more secure. right?
yes. So,
So as far as those front doors, who would decide whether or not the doors that are there today are safe enough? Like, who would run a safety audit as we're talking about town hall security, right? Would that be the police officers or the police department, I should say?
yeah, I would work with the chief on it, and they would help me determine. I can tell you, honestly, they're probably not the best doors for security, but I understand we're also not a police building or a school building. And so if they would just shut and lock, that would be helpful. But the back ones don't. The back ones are warped. The weather, the winter and the summer, they get messed up.
Sure.
And if you don't slam them shut behind you, the building is wide open all night.
And quite frankly, it doesn't matter what that door looks like, because it's not on a streetscape, so it's not facing. So there doesn't need to
Right.
be a
Back door.
historical
Back door.
nature to that. So
Right,
of all doors, that one could be replaced through this measure.
Right.
Because
That seems like a very easy
Yeah.
replacement for sure.
yeah. So I'll be working on that. They don't. It's our building. They don't. And so it's going to be up to you guys if, I've asked HPC to look into it. They can find something that's more secure, that's aesthetically pleasing to them. If they can't, then it's going to be not aesthetically pleasing if we need to replace them. That's what's going to happen.
And I think we just.
HPC thinks they can be replaced and refinished, or
Yeah.
repaired and refinished.
Oh my God.
Sure, they can be refinished, and in 5 years have to be refinished again, but the problem is the security of them. It
Can
doesn't
we-
change that.
Can we donate it to that guy who accepts donations?
When he picks up the chairs, have him just take the doors with him. Yeah, perfect.
Does
But
there
yeah.
need to be a fire safety component to the door?
No, as long as you can get out of it and it isn't locked from inside, then you're fine.
Are we looking into like a buzzer system? I mean, the doors will still be open to the public.
No, the doors will still be open. I don't have the means for a buzzer system or anyone to answer the buzzer, so.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So,
I was thinking a fob system too and all that, but that gets like,
and it's too, and I have to be honest with you, there are people in and out of this building, clock winders,
yeah.
Yeah.
Boy
outing.
Scouts,
Yeah.
seniors,
Public-
it's
yeah.
arts council, it's too difficult
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do that.
It looks
It
like
doesn't
that.
work. Yeah, it doesn't work. Yeah. So that, at least this would also give me new keys because everyone has a key to this building. I'm not gonna lie. Ask out on the street and somebody would be like, oh yeah, I still have a key to town hall.
I found
And-
one right outside actually before I came in. Fit
So
right
I
in there.
mean, at least we would start afresh and know who
Yes.
has the keys.
Good.
Because
I
right
like
now
that.
everyone has them. So, yeah. Okay, so moving on, computers and equipment. I didn't put anything in last year for it, but this year I spoke with IT and I try unless I need something major not to, but we have to make sure we have some funds in there when computers crash as they get older, and also our battery backup in the basement continues to beep, and he's like, because it needs to be replaced, and that's $2,500 alone. So I put $10,000 in. If I don't spend it, I just roll it to next year. And as we need new computers, he did say my laptop, which I'm fine with, but he's like, it's old and it's not going to be under warranty after this
Well,
year.
if you're going to
So-
be getting video feed from security cameras,
Right.
you're going to
You
want to
may
make
need an
sure.
upgrade.
You might need an upgrade.
So,
Yeah.
there are those things which I don't get unless I need to, but if I need to, I need the money to be there to get them. So,
Your equipment needs to match the other things that you're doing.
right. So that's in here. Okay.
Denise, this screen and the capability to connect to the screen, does that fall under this category as well?
Why do we need to do something else? with
Well, no,
this one?
I just bring up the whole conversation that I had with the planning board with regards to can we start using it for presentations per se?
And they can, but they need, right,
There's
they need a longer cable. They need a longer
Or the
cable.
person has to sit the dais or.
Well, we need a
something.
longer cable to get it over there. That's what we need.
You got the longest, I thought, Barbara. This is the one back with me. You.
I have a 25-foot one if you'd like to use it.
I don't know if it might-
Long sneaky thing.
Remember?
I'd like to have that conversation
We never
with tech if
needed
we
it
can.
before, but something
Didn't we even,
happened
like,
with the
rotate?
remote.
I thought one of you got the longest.
Well, so then if we
Oh, wait,
could,
that's it.
That goes all the way down.
This is it, though. Yeah, that's what runs all the way. But this is all the slack we have here.
Oh, for that, that
To
one.
plug
we didn't
into the
do.
See, we
computer.
never, we
Yeah.
did never need that before. I used to do my budget
said Greta-
presentation
Greta
from
will be here
here,
any
plug
minute.
in here. I did not have to connect to there. It worked right on the screen, but I don't know what happened and nobody can fix
But you
it.
saw what Mark did yesterday. I don't have any.
he had a
He put it
dongle.
right
here,
there.
but he had a.
He had a
yes.
dongle and he had his
Yes.
little iPad and he
Mhm.
So he
connected
plugged
very
in up here
easily.
and it stayed, and then he was still able to do it from there. But
I'm,
the
we don't
remote.
have that.
confident that we can figure
Right.
that out.
And it will not cost anywhere near $10,000.
Right, right.
Okay,
So
but that,
yes.
that piece, if we can maybe fine tune that a little bit and maybe, what do you call it? One of those pointers, an electric pointer, would
I
be
think we
really
have-
helpful.
I think he had one.
It didn't work,
It
but
didn't
that was
work.
his
Didn't work.
personal, that was his personal thing. Like, I don't know if that thing, if you purchase that item specifically for the TV or is it specifically?
No, it's
that?
for the computer, I
Okay,
would
One
think.
for my cat.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's never what computer they have when they come, the applicants, but. Okay,
Yeah, I don't know why it didn't work on the screen.
okay.
All right.
Thank you.
What do you got?
Okay, next one is senior center renovation. So we had talked about this in the senior subcommittee about making some changes maybe downstairs to the senior center while the seniors are out of it and over at the library. Understanding that we're still probably going to do a lot of the lunches and stuff over there because they enjoy it, they like it.
And we want to grow it.
But to maybe make, right, and there's not enough room downstairs, but to maybe make downstairs a room more for games.
Like a senior rec
like a
room is
senior
kind of
rec
what we talked
room for
about.
that.
And it would be really kind of cool because it's closed. And so maybe at the time the parking lot opens, we could complete this and it'd be like kind of an unveiling of a refreshed space. So that would be like a multi-use room, not nearly the size of the library, but like a rec room, literally.
Mhm. You know,
And-
painting it and
Where's
getting
the-
games and doing that kind of stuff.
And we think we can do something worthwhile that would be well received for 10 grand?
I think the main thing they asked for was actually better lighting. which is it's low-hanging fruit.
It seems like an absolute no-brainer. for
Which you could
Jim.
also do with paint. Like, there's very
Right.
inexpensive ways to
Right.
refresh that.
That's right.
Right.
An investment maybe in a TV so that if they wanted to do like some small exercise groups or a
Yeah.
webinar or
Yeah.
something like that, then they could
Because they
patch
love
somebody
the
in.
screen in the library room. They were like,
Yeah.
oh, you get to look at it on that because we don't have that
It's
downstairs.
like a television.
So,
So
yeah.
we've also invented fire in the wheel since then. So it should be, I think for 10,000, it's a
we'll
nice
make it
investment
work.
in a space.
And if we need to do more next year, then we'll,
Step by step.
right,
So,
add on to it.
Barbara, there's also a potential grant through the Quality Institute that I was looking at, and maybe we can look at it together. But they're specifically targeting senior centers and the upgrade of senior centers.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
But to Rob's question, is that enough? I mean,
Well, we're gonna make
Maybe
it enough
step
for
by
this
step,
year.
like, step by
That's what we agreed. And we're gonna start slow and see what happens.
The bones of that room are correct, are
I mean,
good.
yeah, you can't do much
no,
to the infrastructure of it,
No.
but we tried that. Nobody wanted to even paint it.
I love painting. Sign me up.
really?
They didn't, nope. Mm-mm.
It's like making your bed, makes the whole room look.
Well,
clean.
if we have that
Golf
initiative,
sim
right,
down
if you
there.
want to launch that
Yeah.
as an
What about
initiative,
darts?
maybe this TC has,
Dart
a
league?
you know, a different
Yeah.
set of connections.
Right.
There's a lot of good ideas
Right.
around.
I mean, I don't know. We tried, Ken tried, and it was like you couldn't get anyone to help to do it. And then, of course, you know, the seniors can be a little particular. So don't be skimping on things because if the scouts didn't paint it just so, they're going to notice. So,
Yeah.
you know, we have to also guide whoever's doing it and make sure
Will
it's
it
getting
still
done.
be accessible, obviously, for the bowls and stuff?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Has to be. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're only pulling.
But just
plates.
even lighting and a coat of paint
Yeah.
will make that space far more inviting.
Very true.
But also, we had talked about not during election time. We're not going to be doing anything.
We will not create any more stress for
Thank
Debbie.
you.
Correct.
Thank you.
They
Yes, we
have,
did.
like
We did talk about
furniture, comfy furniture down there?
Not really,
Maybe the old furniture could go down.
actually.
I don't think
but
filing
then as we
cabinets are
get
gonna
into
help.
it,
Yeah, I
we
don't think
start
they want
line
file
item
cabinets
budget
and
items.
desks. That's a
If you
problem.
could get some sweat equity for people to like paint and we're not having to paint, like use a professional painter and we take that money and then we repurpose it back in and figure
Right.
it out. Also, I mean, again, there's a lot of good stuff out there that people would donate. And if it's in good condition, acceptable condition,
Mhm.
we would look at taking it, right?
Actually, when you're correct, when the library was going through its sort of end phase of construction, I think a couple of businesses or a business came in and said, we'll donate X. You know,
Yeah.
we have some furniture. So
Mhm.
yeah, those things can exist.
Also, I mean, the school was saying, and I don't know if they got rid of, but their older stuff may be better than what's down there. I don't know.
Right.
And she's like, take it because we're gonna throw it out. And I was like, well, I don't.
Are we
need
going to pay
anything
these
for
chairs
keeping,
forward
but-
that we're sitting on? No.
These aren't that bad.
I know.
But I mean, I really appreciate this line item. So thank
Me
you.
too.
Yeah.
Really grateful for it.
Awesome.
And Bob,
Okay.
you really worked hard for that last year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Next is the only item that Parks and Recreation has asked for, which is why this capital is going to go so very quick this year. Pavilion roof. So we have an ordinance in place already for $12,975, but it's approximately $30,000 to do what they want to do to it.
It's cedar.
It's cedar.
That's the issue. Cedar for
Correct.
cedar to keep the aesthetic.
So
look.
they are
expensive.
also though putting in for a grant. So I'm not going to ordinance this money until we know whether we got the grant or not. If we get the grant, great. If it's only partial, okay, we'll have to supplement more. But I have it on here so that I can, if I need to, it'll go in the capital plan.
I recall that there was, I'm
Mike.
sure that, sure.
You can't, no, I was gonna ask him, can you share?
Yeah, okay, perfect. I'm sure that Jerry has looked at trying to clean it, right? That was it started with that discussion of cleaning it
Yes,
off.
and that's why we're where we are. We've been doing this for about 5 years.
Yes, exactly.
And then it was going to be cleaned, and now it's not going to be cleaned, and now they need to replace it.
So it could not be cleaned and, okay.
Correct.
Wow, how did those 5 years become that? Okay.
Because
Okay.
Okay, so, Okay, the next two items are just engineering costs. We got grants for Wyckoff Mills Road and for Cedar Brook Road Phase 1. However, the grant does not cover certain engineering costs. Those have to come out of our funds, doesn't come out of the grant funds. And so these are the two amounts that Tom Decker is requesting for their services for these two, preparing the bid spec and any of the paperwork they need to do. And some of the inspection doesn't get covered. So those items are in here. That's 10,000 and 23,100 that he requested.
Denise, was there a Shadow Oaks survey that was already done? Was that done?
Decker already did for Shadow Oaks. And so if you go all the way past all these police ones that we said yes to, and you come down to the 1.5 million,
Yeah.
that is what Tom is estimating Shadow Oaks will cost. Because at the same time that we do the milling and paving, there may be some curbing work, not all,
Okay.
some that needs to be repaired while we do the road work. And there's also going to be storm drains that need to be upgraded and replaced. And that's going to have to happen all over town, but as we do the roads, we're doing them.
Yeah.
The upgrading of the storm drains, that's the retrofitting.
Some will have to be completely redone. They'll have to be brand new.
So it's a storm drain. It's not like a dry well. It's a storm drain.
Well, it is like a drywall, right? The storm drain.
Well, these are the ones that go into the streams.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So it's a storm drain.
I
Yeah.
got to map all of those.
Yeah.
I got to see every single one.
I had it on. I turned it off so they could talk.
Oh, sorry.
I'll leave it on, but then nobody else can talk.
Yes, you leave yours on. We'll work it out. Sorry.
People tell Mike.
I got to see every
Hey,
one of those grains.
Quick question.
Yes.
This will be unpopular with Shadow Oaks, but when I had to redo my curbs, I had to pay for them.
Correct. And we're not redoing all the curbing.
Okay.
We are not, but there may be some curbing as in other road projects where it is crumbled. And when we go to do the road work, it completely disintegrates, at which time we will have to then replace the curbing. But the goal is not to replace all curbing in Shadow Oaks. And that's made clear to all the residents in there when they ask, can I get new curbing? No. It's only what Tom Decker deems necessary when doing the milling and paving.
Okay.
Do those residents have an option to pay for it since the work is currently?
Sure, they can reach out to the contractor that's out there and ask to have it done. That's in any project. Yes, they can. And since they're already out there, sometimes they do give them a better price because they're already out there.
Yeah.
But we
That's
don't
what
get
we
involved in it.
Would that include,
Oh, we
would
don't
that
get
include
it.
sidewalks? Like if you're out there and you wanted a sidewalk redone at the same time?
Sure, if they want to, they just have to get a permit from Tom though to do that. He needs to be told and he needs to inspect it to make sure it's done properly.
Why not?
But yeah.
It's an advantage when they're out there for sure. Thank you.
Okay. And then the last item is Cedar Brook Phase 2. Now, we talked about this last year, and we went out for a grant for Phase 1, and we received the funding for Phase 1. So I put it in there, but we're going to go out for a grant again. I can't promise we're going to get it. I don't know what's going to happen with all this funding. Everything's kind of up in the air with that, but we are going to go out for
Don't
funding
say.
for it again. That'll be Tom's when he comes to us every year and says, "Oh, what road should I go for now?" Cedar Brook Phase 2 is what we're going to be going for.
I'm sorry,
for the
where's
next-
Cedar Brook?
Where is Cedar Brook? Out off Route 130 in the corporate
Oh,
by Dye Road.
it's all corporate, right?
It's corporate, but we own those roads. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So that's in there, but it's not going to get an ordinance until I know about the whole grant situation. Okay. Okay, so we're done with capital for 2025. The other items, again, they're just placeholders. They sit in there because I need to fill in my capital plan, but they may never, ever happen. Okay, so moving on to the agenda, the next item is the salary pool, and I've discussed this with the personnel subcommittee as well. And we are now, salary pool 5%. That is what we did last year. That's what we're asking for again this year. I've looked up what the standard cost of living is and what increases are basically over industry-wide, and they're anywhere from 4 to 6%. I can also tell you that the state health benefit cost went up significantly again. They promised 3 years ago when it went up that wasn't going to happen, and they did it again. And some of my employees are actually making less money right now than they were at the end of last year until they get their increase. It stinks, but we can thank the state for that because they threw the municipalities under the bus, and their health benefits are less because we are all paying more. But that's just the way it goes. So, and we need health benefits. So, so I put in, it's already built into the budget, 5% salary pool is already in there. It's
Where
already
is
in.
this?
Well, you'll see it in every single operating
okay.
where there's
Gotcha.
salaries. Yeah, there's a 5% increase. Okay. Increases in line items in operating, just a couple that I want to point out to you. Legal, there's an increase. If you're in operating, there's a spreadsheet in the front, an Excel spreadsheet that has all the operating. But legal's gone up, and I can tell you why legal is going up, and we may not need to use it, but we have litigation going on for a couple of different things at this point. And so we just need to make sure we have enough money to get through that litigation. And if we actually need to pay anything out, we want to make sure we have some funding there. If we don't need it, it'll roll into surplus. Right in the front of operating where your summary spreadsheets are, if you find these, they look like this. It says budget summary. They look like this. They look.
You know what is not the first thing, it's like 5.
Right, well, surplus is up front. Yeah, so, okay. So I'm just pointing out the increases that are somewhat significant.
Okay.
Also, keep in mind that probably 3/4 of our budget is not even within our control. Things like increase in pension, increase in health insurance, our shared services contracts, which we've already entered into, police salaries, they're all non-negotiable. So a big chunk of our budget, the contribution to the library, all mandated and spelled out
And
for
it's
us.
non-discretionary, and there's
Correct.
nothing that you can do about that,
Correct.
right? I mean,
And our
it's,
budget is very tight. Our budget doesn't increase much each year, considering the fact that everything else has been increasing. But I hold pretty tight when I go through the departments, and I kind of cut where I think, yeah, this is just a cushion. We don't need it. Oh, but now you're going to need $3,000 more in motor fuel because it went up. So I offset it for them, which is why the budget pretty much stays level.
Denise, for some of these, and obviously being the new guy, I'm gonna lean on the new guy thing for a while. Just get used to
till
it.
December at
Is
least.
at least, is there a way to mark those line items in the budget as like mandate, we have no
So I
flexibility?
have, when you go through the book, any budget that's in blue paper, or every year I use a different color paper,
Non-disclosure.
those are ones we have no control over.
Got
Okay.
it. Any way we can do that on the summary as well?
Sure.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so senior center, that's new. That's a completely new department. So that budget is new. And that is for Donna's as the senior center director. And then the programming that she's asking for funds for. Okay, so that's been pulled out of Parks and Recreation and basically put into the senior center. Okay.
That salary in addition to what she's making?
No, that salary is not in addition to. That's just split out between her different positions. Round 4 of affordable housing. So you're going to see that the budget for affordable housing is up quite a bit because in prior years, we really didn't need to use our consultant or our attorney for affordable housing, but this year we're going to use them a lot.
I
So
was gonna ask where that was. Is that still under professional services?
it's under, there's a tab for affordable housing.
I meant in your summary sheets.
In the summary sheet, it's
It's
under,
like
it's
what page is
outside
that?
cap, so
Outside
it's
cap.
towards the back. of the summary sheet, because I have to do this by inside and outside cap. So miscellaneous outside cap, if you go to that next sheet, it's right under PERS and before LoSAP.
Got it.
Okay. And that's pretty much it for the things within our control that have gone up significantly. I really am not flagging something that's $500 more, because that's just probably an increase in, training or something. But those are the significant ones. With that being said, our surplus is very healthy, and continues to be. We are fortunate in that we've been able to replenish what we used last year. And so with that being said, and with the budget as tight as I keep it, we are able to have a 0 tax increase again this year. We'll use $2,220,000 worth of surplus, which is fine because we are replenishing. We replenished over $2 million in 2024 in surplus. So we're basically using and replenishing. Looking down the road, our assessed value continues to go up. It will level off by 2030 maybe, because everything will be pretty much built out at that point, and we won't have any additional ratables coming on.
Yeah.
But we also will probably be doing a reval at some point over the next couple of years, not for the entire town, but for the warehouse area. And we will have someone come in closed session to talk about that. But with that being said, there will be additional surplus most likely from that as well. So, we like to keep our surplus at least 30% of our budget, right? Our budget is 14 million. That would be surplus of 4.2, 5.2. And our surplus is at 8 million right now.
I mean, doing quick math on this long sheet here, if you look at it, it's taken us 25 years to double our budget. But based on this rate that we have, it's going to take only 6 years for this budget to double again. And that's just a sign of the times, which means that we have to keep a surplus growth rate of about 30%, which is exactly the point you're making, in order to continue to replenish,
Right.
to make sure that we are overcompensating for that budget increase.
And I think when we
That's
message.
just fast math.
When we message this to the community too, I think it's important to say, like, because we often will, and as not an elected official before this, you would hear like, we're able to keep taxes flat because we're using the surplus. I think we also have to reiterate, and we're replenishing that surplus over the years. Like, looking at this projection, our surplus is going to be even healthier potentially in a couple of the coming years.
But it's going to have to, because
Correct.
again, you're going to
Agreed.
double it by 2032. And
But
your
from a-
surplus, you're saying at 2030 is already going to be meeting those 2032 budget numbers.
Yeah, which is
That's
why
what's
we are
really important.
conservative.
You're 2 years ahead of it
Correct.
from a surplus standpoint.
And that's why we remain conservative, right? We
Right.
keep it flat. We don't do anything crazy. And use the surplus that we need to. However, just keeping in mind that 10 years from now, this could be a little bit of a different picture. With that being said, 10 years ago, we said that as well. And nobody really can forecast the economy and exactly what's going to happen. But we knew we would be okay with what we were doing. And so far, we have been.
It's worked.
So.
I have a question. Why can't we estimate the recycling tonnage into our budget?
Recycling tonnage is in a grant. Okay, so recycling tonnage grant, I put in as a chapter 159 during the year because I don't have the number until they actually give me the number for it. And then we use that grant to fund part of the public works salaries, correct?
Yeah, because I mean, it typically was about 109, like that's higher than we normally get from the grant. Like if you look at it over time, it's typically around that number.
Yeah, but you can't
But you
estimate
can't
it, not a
put that
grant.
in.
Nope.
Okay, interesting.
You have to
And the
have it
same thing
awarded
with the
to you.
community
Yep, any grant has to be awarded to you. And when it is, I put it in the budget, but it's done as a chapter 159. You won't see it in this. I can't put it in this. I can't guess a number for a
Then the
grant.
clean communities, I noticed that too.
Yeah, that all, when it comes in, will get done as a chapter 159 throughout the year.
Clean communities isn't used for DPW salaries, right? This is for extra stuff, or is it?
Clean communities we use for equipment usually, for things like, to clean like trash bags, or even equipment that Jerry has for clean communities.
The, going back to the reval for a second, what year did you say that was, you think?
Oh, a total reval? I've no, well, I think statutorily it has to be done so many years, but we've done what's called compliance plans throughout. And so that's helped us to push that off. And we're going to have a closed session with the tax assessor at the next meeting. So you can ask him all those questions.
Is this
Mhm.
coming? Okay.
Mhm. Yes.
I almost feel like we should applaud. Yeah, really.
I'd say that, and also
on, she
some,
just fills
like,
in
we have a
these.
history of fiscal responsibility in the town, right?
Yes.
So it's.
Every
it's-
committee I've had has been very good at working with me to make sure that we are in the position we're in. Yeah. So with that being said, we're up to public comment. So if,
Public,
okay.
Come up,
Come
come
on
up,
up.
come up.
sign your name, state your name, address, and we have our standard time limit? Okay, I have 3 minutes, just so you know.
So for those of you who don't know,
Can you push your?
Yeah, maybe it'll stay on it.
for those of you who don't know me, I'm Alan Sorrentino. I live in Shadow Oaks. Been here for, I don't know, 30 years, more or less. So the reason why I'm here is, first I wanted to thank Denise. We had some email back and forth. Shadow Oaks has been looking a little shabby, my words, over the past, 5-10 years. So I asked her how to go about getting things done, like lights were out, street signs were missing and gone. And she guided me through that. And so I wanted to thank you for that. The other thing we talked about was the paving of the streets. And I think I heard today that you have $1.5 billion budgeted for that. So I guess my first question is you had told me that if the bids come in for that, you move forward. If the bids do not, you don't move forward
Correct.
with that. So how confident are you in that $1.5 million number?
Confident in my engineer. He's the one who gave it to me because that is not my area of expertise. So, and if it comes in,
What's
the
his
bid,
history of being?
the bid, he's been on the mark. We haven't had to reject one yet. So he's been, usually he is, puts in a huge contingency so that his budget's more than what the bid comes in at. However, when we go out to bid, sometimes the concrete prices go through the roof,
Right.
and we can't anticipate that. But he's confident with that number. If it happened that wasn't enough, the whole project probably wouldn't be scrapped. We would probably have to do it in phases. That's what would have to happen.
All right, good. So, and then I heard about the curb, so I'm happy because I live on, I guess it's the east side of Shadow Oak, and there's about a 200-foot section of curb there that is just crumbled. There's like nothing left. So I'm glad that that's going to be
Mhm.
done. I hate for it to be paved and then a year later, someone have to dig it all up and, the curbs.
No, if it needs to be addressed, the engineer will address it in the bid spec, and it will be done. And if he thinks it doesn't need to be addressed, then it won't be. But typically, if it's already crumbling, most likely it will
These are
have to be
beyond
in there.
crumbled.
Yeah, okay.
So hopefully he did like a field.
He did, they went
site
out.
and
Oh,
and looked,
absolutely.
And I'm sure he saw it. And the other thing was, if this goes through the budget process, when do bids go out and when would you expect it to be done?
So if the budget gets adopted in March, we still have to do what's called a capital ordinance to put the money in place for any capital projects. And that takes 2 readings, and there's a 21-day estoppel period. So I tell everyone that the money's not really spendable until May. And at that point, then we have to get the bid spec together, go out to bid and award the bid. So probably the fall.
Yes, yeah, late summer, fall,
Mhm.
something like that. All right, that's it.
Okay?
Thanks.
Any other public comment?
Done.
All in favor?
8:10.
Yeah.
I think someone's.